after my exam.
So it's only on Zoom?
Last
There we go, back to recording. Yeah, we're down to our last session of the day, y'all, before pizza arrives for our in-person folks and before our closing chat for everybody else here. So, yeah, I'm excited for this because I think this is like the moment we've been waiting for, and maybe the most intimidating, depending on what you were thinking. And we promise, as Pranika said, we're gonna shift our mindset and approach this with an open mind because we have some pros here that are really gonna walk us through the secrets of lived experiences. So, without further ado, these are two ladies who need no introduction, but I'm gonna give them an anyway. This is Christy and Taylor, who are both BDR managers here at HubSpot, and I'm gonna let them describe their experiences that are here at HubSpot, their journeys, and all that good stuff. So, without further ado, I'm excited to go into our cold calling workshop with Taylor and Christy.
Awesome.
Oh,
Might need some help
I got
getting
you.
the slides
Got
set
you.
up, but
I got you.
my name is Chrissy. I've been at HubSpot for almost 6 years now. I actually started out as a court BDR, so have been through the role, and then moved over.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And then I moved over to sell in our small business segment for about 2 years, a little over 2 years, and then came back to manage BDRs. So it's been my journey here. That's with Taylor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor. Very similar journey to Chrissy. I've been at HubSpot almost 6 years as well. I was a corp BDR, but before that I did a year in our inbound success coach role, which was like an inbound role, working with customers before I went to BDR. And then I went to BDR in our corporate segment, and now I'm a corp BDR manager alongside Chrissy and a couple others. I think you guys met Alana. And yeah, I live here in Boston. That's everything.
We figured it out too while we were talking about how to get
Amazing.
the screen sharing.
Yeah,
happen,
so here are the pictures.
That's us. You get to see us in the flesh.
Awesome, but we can jump into it. So quick agenda for us today. Like Finny said, we're gonna be going and spending a majority of the time going through the cold call framework, so what that looks like. But we're gonna start before jumping into that, just some prep around like what to look for when you're researching these companies. We're gonna go through, like I said before, just the framework of running a cold call. And then we're gonna give you guys a live role play, and we'll chat through the company, the example that we have, and the contact. And that's our game plan for today. We can kick off.
Awesome. So before we even talk about making a cold call, one of the most important things to make sure you're set up for success is like doing your research on a prospect and a company to make sure it's even worth your time to call them, right? Like there's nothing worse than calling someone, having a conversation, and realizing that you just wasted 10 minutes on someone. That's not going to be a great lead for us. So when we think about like compelling reasons to connect or things to look for when you're doing your research, we broke it down into 3 different places that you can look. So specifically for HubSpot and what we're selling, job history, like a job title, who a person is, and like what they're doing day to day, that's really important. Primarily, we work with target marketers, some sales folks as well. When we think about job history and look on LinkedIn, for example, one really compelling reason to reach out might be like someone that was recently promoted, brought on to do something new, right? Someone that's like new in the role, fresh, excited, someone who recently got a promotion, anyone that's previously worked in marketing in the past. Maybe they have some idea of what HubSpot does. Maybe they used HubSpot in a past role. And similarly, I just jumped ahead to the next bullet point there, but typically looking to make sure, would this person know marketing technology? Would they have an idea of like what HubSpot does? If so, that already gives us a leg up when we get the call. Also, if we see on LinkedIn that they're certified in HubSpot, any of our certifications, bonus, easy talk track. Additionally, if we think about the fit of a company, we typically like to look for companies that sell business to business, typically are selling like a service more so than a product, or if it is a product, one that has a high price tag on it, a high ASP or average sales price. So we want to look at their business model. Really easy place to look at that is on their website. What do they want their target audience to know about them and what they sell? We can get a lot of information just looking at someone's website. Additionally, if it looks like the website has a good digital marketing strategy on it, if we see like it's a good looking website, that's probably an indicator to us that they care about their marketing and would invest in a tool like HubSpot to help them. And when we think about like capturing leads on their website, some things that I would personally look for and that like our BDRs are looking for would be a form submission, a place to click and give your information. We think about that as like a conversion path on someone's website, right? If there are leads coming to the site and nowhere for someone to put their information, then how is that company gonna be getting leads on their website? I think on the flip side, if you see a website that there might not be a strong digital marketing strategy, that might also be a reason to reach out, right? Like saw some opportunities for you guys to incorporate some of these conversion strategies as well. If anyone is using like Salesforce or Marketo, those are two of our really big competitors when it comes to marketing. So I would definitely say that's something we'd look for. And content creation, if they have blogs, webinars, social media, like again, just shows that they care and are investing in their marketing strategy. And then the third piece here would be like any recent news information. So a couple things we have listed here, posts on LinkedIn. One I'd add here too is, it's the second one, are they hiring? Are they growing their team? If their team is growing versus shrinking, that's a good sign that like they're bringing on people to help them with some initiative. They might need technology to help them there as well. They have budget. That's a good sign. And then finally, funding. I think like when teams are having investors provide money, obviously, in funding, that's a great sign that they have some extra money lying around to spend on a tool like HubSpot. So before even talking about the cold call, these are some things I would say would be good to look for our BDR specifically at HubSpot before going into a cold call and taking the time to give someone a ring.
Taylor, is this an example of Show Me You Know Me? Arnika and Alana told us.
This is a perfect example of show me you know me. Yes, we love it. You guys are ahead of the game.
And we had a question from the chat.
Yes.
Okay. Anne asked, out of curiosity, why does HubSpot target businesses selling services rather than products?
It's a really, really good question. Typically with services, like there's more opportunities to, like those are typically higher price points. So like a service that someone needs that's ongoing is typically like they're getting cash flow from a company like every month, every quarter, however that's set up, versus a product would typically be just like a one-time purchase.
A great question.
Really great
Really?
question.
I have a question. I actually want to know what's on your wrist. Like, is that like a little HubSpot?
Oh yes, our wristband
Oh,
to
okay.
get through, to get
Oh, is that
access.
like a thing? I
Yeah. Yeah.
Security badge.
I'm allowed in here, which is
Yeah.
good.
Cool. Great questions.
Yeah,
Love it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
yeah. Great question in the chat.
All right, so moving on to the cold call framework, we've kind of laid it out here in 5 different steps in terms of like what the cold call will look like. The first step, we've got our intro, our justifier, our reason for calling, discovery and active listening in that component. And then last step here is closing, which in the case of a BDR is going to be pitching the meeting. So we're going to jump into each specific step here. Start off with intro and then move it back. Okay, perfect. So intro, in terms of what this is, it's exactly what it sounds like, right? So you're gonna be introducing yourself and asking for permission to talk. A key thing to call out here is I see a lot of new BDRs come in and say, you know, they're reaching out to someone cold and say, hi, is this Taylor? Like assume you have the right person on the other end of the phone when you're stating that opener, because it's gonna immediately build that trust and confidence with the prospect. So an example here would be saying something along the lines of, hi Taylor, we've never spoken before, but my name is Chrissy and I'm calling from HubSpot. Give a pause for them to respond and saying, I know I'm calling you out of the blue. Am I catching you at the worst possible time? I think, or were you gonna say that?
You go.
I was gonna say the last phrase here of like, am I catching you at the worst possible time? It's very intentional because it kind of gets them to think, right? Like, we're getting them to say no because people typically will want to say no during a cold call. Usually it's not the worst possible time. So it usually allows you to progress a little bit further.
I was just thinking for a second, I was like, why that question? But it made me
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Yeah,
God, sorry.
exactly.
And just to add on there, like, what, when you guys have a random person call your phone, like the first three questions in your mind are like, who is calling me? Where are they calling from? And why are they calling me? And this opener answers like 2 out of 3 of those questions. We're about to get into that third, like the why that someone is calling. And so immediately, like the guard that your prospect has up when they like don't know who it is, like starts to come down. And to Chrissy's point, that no we're chasing in that opener is intentional because people feel like they're in control when they say no. So this is all psychology, how we've built our opener. And a book recommendation for you guys is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I'm sure someone else probably said that today. It is really good. And oh, really? Oh, Chris Voss is a former hostage FBI negotiator, and he talks about the power of no in like negotiations, kind of like manipulating like has negative connotation, but manipulating people to think that they're in control of the conversation. So another way to say this, instead of like, am I catching you at the worst possible time, is like, am I catching you in the middle of anything? But still going for that no. I think that's pretty much it. I have to say there.
Yeah, no, good.
Do we have a question in the chat? I just saw.
Well, no, that was me. I was just
Oh, okay.
popping the link to the book.
So speaking of show me you know me, this is really gonna be key in your justifier. So, this would be like, actually, I was thinking more of reason for calling here. This is the beginning of your reason for calling a justifier to get credibility, build authority. So it's not just like, you're not saying why you're calling and someone's still waiting for that, like, why is this person on the phone? Why are they calling me? Like, I'm busy, I need to get back to my day, right? So when we think about that justifier, like it's more of a statement leading into what you're about to say next. So that might sound something like, hey Chrissy, I spoke to one of the marketing managers at your company and they suggested I gave you a call. I was just on your website and saw you're using Marketo. I was on your LinkedIn and noticed you lead the marketing team. And I noticed you looked into HubSpot around this time last year. Showing your research, building that credibility with your prospect.
All right, reason for calling. Again, like Taylor said, this is gonna be building off of your justifier. But this is where you're kind of putting in that research that you did on the prospect, right? So leaning into what we call problem-based language to pose a question. Again, a lot of psychology behind this, but people really buy from experiencing some sort of pain. So what we're trying to understand is like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I typically hear from others who either use this tool or are in this industry or, you know, have this role. They experience this pain. Is that relevant for you today? Or does it make sense to have a conversation about this? A good example for this would be, I speak with marketing leaders all day long. They all seem to be struggling with lead generation and increasing brand awareness. Curious if that sounds like your world at all.
At this point, would you want to give any value statements or?
Like pitch HubSpot?
Yeah. When would you
So-
wanna do that?
Yeah, so I would say typically what we recommend is like refrain from pitching HubSpot off the bat. I think for anyone who's ever had a sales call, like you can probably attest to like when someone's pitching you off the bat, you're like, oh my God, this is like too much, like, no, thank you. So what we suggest is like leaning more into like a reason for calling that doesn't throw HubSpot in their face. Like, we're gonna get there in pitching the meeting, but you also wanna make sure you're qualifying around like, is this even a good fit, right? And is there a pain that we can solve for? As opposed to saying like, let's meet with HubSpot. Okay, great, but are you gonna be a good fit? We're kind of going the other way around.
Great question.
Such a big shift, yeah.
When you say qualifying, like, does that mean like say you're like, does it sound like a problem for you? What if they just say no, but like it is a problem for them, but they don't know it is? Or like they say no, but they're just saying that so they can get off the phone quicker. Like when you're qualifying, is this so that like then like say in a Excel sheet somewhere that you write down like they said no, like I'm just curious, like, how can you tell if they're lying or like, how can you tell if they're just trying to get you off the phone or, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think it's a give and take with some prospects. Like you will get some people who are just trying to push you off the phone, but I think that's when you lean more on objection handling. But I'd say typically with an opener, if you've got a pain point you're calling out and it's pretty obvious that like, you know, maybe they're using a certain tool and there are really common pain points for that tool and they say no, then like pivoting, being like, wow, great, how did your team solve for that today? Like, what do you, if you really love your tool, okay, great, what do you love about it? See if they can elaborate and tell you more about it. Sometimes they do love the tool they're using, and if that's the case and it's working well, okay, great. Happy for your team, like if anything changes, let us know, but move on to the next person.
And then in that case, like you would just like somehow in a note, like add somewhere, be like, okay, this is what they said, and then scratch them and never go back to that account, or would you circle back with the account like another time?
I think it would depend on a few things, like if, for example, someone says like, we're, you know, locked into a contract for 2 more years. Like that would be probably something that I'd still, like, if they're a good fit, maybe circle back to it
Okay.
versus other objections, like maybe if someone is saying, you know, we don't want to change our solution and they hang up, but it's a lower level marketer. Okay, let's find a different contact to reach out to. Because this person might not be making the decision. So it kind of depends on the situation.
I think that, if in your gut, like I always tell my team, if there's like an icky feeling, if someone's like, nope, we're good, like, and you feel like they're trying to get you off the phone, I always think it's okay to call it out. Be like, I know, I'm always calling at the worst time. I'm sure you don't wanna talk about all of your challenges with me today, like, I'm pretty shocked to hear that like you're not struggling with any of these, and like honestly, kudos to you if that is the case. Like, how did you manage to solve all of these problems that I'm speaking with many marketers about? To Chrissy's point, I think just like pivoting, like contextual storytelling of like, wow, I usually don't hear that. Like, why, like, how did you guys do that? And then the other thing, part of the reason we also don't pitch, I want to go back to your question, people love to talk about themselves. Like, they don't really, honestly, can I curse? They don't give a shit about HubSpot. Like, they care about themselves. Like, that's all they care about. So the way that we structure our cold call, and this is why we teach it this way, is to make it entirely about them. And then at the end,
Great call out.
pitch HubSpot. Was there a question in the chat, Ben?
It was about that.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
you and Amber are on the same page about that. Yeah.
Oh. Then, so this is where I'm sure a lot of questions will come up, so definitely be sure to like write them down, throw them in the chat too, because right, like at this point, we're assuming that they've given us some indication that there's an opportunity to continue this conversation after our reason for calling. So this is really where like, I think some of the best sales reps have like the highest emotional intelligence to be able to listen for cues of things that people are saying and know to ask more questions about like what they're talking about. So when, to your point, no one's ever gonna say, oh my, like think about, I always tell my team, like, think about it like your first date. Like if you open up and ask someone about the things that, their trauma, the things that keep them up at night, like they're never gonna say like in their first conversation with you, like that's something you build up to as you build trust with someone. We hope to expedite that timeline in a cold call, but by starting asking like about things that could be a challenge, listening for cues that there may be some sort of challenge, we can start to ask more discovery questions to uncover. And I like to use this framework, like a what, why, impact framework. What is happening? Why is it happening? And what's the impact of that happening? And so some of these questions that are for the discovery questions here, we want to understand if the pain that's happening, that we're assuming is happening from the conversation and how they're responding to us. One, is it something HubSpot can even solve for? But two, is it something that they're committed to fixing? Because again, we don't want to waste our time with people that might not be committed to solving a problem that they might be having. So in order to uncover some sort of pain after that reason for calling, I think about it of like starting and going down a pain funnel of like starting broad and then asking follow-up questions. So what are your team's top marketing priorities this quarter? How do you typically measure success across your campaigns or channels? What tools or platforms are you using to manage your campaigns and track performance? Right? So like the answers to one thing that these questions all have in common, and I don't know if anyone's noticing, they're all open-ended questions. These are intentionally starting with what, why, when, where, how, who. That is how we get information from someone that's like genuine without us like putting our assumptions on them. And so to Chrissy's point here, or Chrissy's deck, she built this. The tips that we provide when we think about an effective discovery portion of a cold call is like that active listening piece, like I said, emotional intelligence of like, something seems like they might be lying or there actually might be pain. I'm gonna dig in here. So really actually listening to the person that you're talking to versus like trying to think about that next question that you're gonna be asking. Yeah, listening to hear, and understanding. The other thing is if you're someone that tends to interrupt, like I always coach my team to just mute yourself. Cause even if you notice, like when people start to like wrap up their sentence, sometimes things will pop into their head and they just start talking again and start rambling. And you're just like getting pain and pain and pain. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're like typing all your notes. And you wanna be building off of what information you're getting, right? So if you were to ask like, what are your top marketing priorities this quarter? And the prospect were to say like, improving our lead generation. Okay, improving. So there's something that's not great right now, right? Like improve means that something is not where they want it to be. Got it. That's great to hear. Like always awesome to hear that people are improving. When they're improving their marketing, what exactly are you looking to improve? Like what's not where you want it to be right now? Right? Active listening and then asking a question to get more information about that piece of information from them. So this is kind of covers like majority of the call. We're gonna talk about closing once we have enough information for a pitch, but I wanna pause for questions if you guys have any. If there are any in the chat.
So I guess this kind of goes into closing, but once you realize that there is a pain point there, like, ooh, I can help, how would you then kind of be like, oh, I think we can help you guys with this? How would you transition into that talk?
Go to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a segue.
Segue.
So closing to your question, there is like that next step of asking for and selling that meeting with your rep. When we are going through this, a quick call out here is what we want to do is confirm a specific date, time, and attendees for that next call. We usually recommend if our BDRs are booking, meetings on the phone, that you're getting them to accept that calendar invite once you're connected with them. Because if you wait until afterwards, maybe it doesn't come through their inbox or they don't see it, they don't show up. So a good bonus there to make sure that they accept it. But an example of this, to your point on like, how do you transition to that next step? Would be something along the lines of, based on, insert what you covered during the conversation. So like in this scenario, like based on, the challenges that you're facing with needing to improve lead generation, would you be against a brief chat tomorrow so that I can loop in my senior colleague to discuss how HubSpot can help? They'll say, yes, that sounds great. We can also talk through how similar software companies are using HubSpot and see if it would make sense to explore further down the line.
Is it also kind of like that psychological thing about how you said, would you be against, or is that just?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We want, and like, another thing is like, would it be the worst idea to meet? No, it wouldn't be the worst idea, right? Like it gets, if we frame it in that way, it gets them to understand it a little bit more of like why it's a good use of time. All in psychology.
Mindset coming up again. Got it. Got it.
Okay. Is that the end of it? So we have our practice, but before we jump into the practice, I think you guys got insight into like the company and the contact beforehand, right? No? Okay, well.
That's what we'll go through
We'll
now.
introduce it now. So the company for the role play that we're gonna be doing is Simpler. So a little bit about them. They operate in the software space, so B2B, really great fit for HubSpot. What they do is they build an easy platform that makes it simple for employees to find information, stay aligned, and feel engaged at work. So it's basically just, an employee engagement platform. Who they're selling to, they work with mid-sized to large companies, mainly selling to teams like HR, IT, and internal comms that want to improve how the people at their organization connect and work together. And then another like fact here, going back to like thinking about like the research we do, right? These folks are using Marketo for their marketing automation today.
And then our prospect, Gary, who is the CMO, just started in the role like in the last year. Newer, again, think back to those like reasons for outreach, newer person here and some, you know, the LinkedIn bio too here. One, if someone has like a LinkedIn bio that they actually put time into, that's also a great sign. But two, some of the things that we're noticing here that have been, like that are, I guess, good as a BDR to see in a marketing leader would be like, one, that they straight up say that they're leading brand, product, and growth marketing functions. They're accelerating market leadership. And then two, they're elevating awareness, demand, and differentiation for a platform that unifies communication, knowledge, and employee engagement. So elevating awareness and demand are like other like keywords for what marketing really does, right? This person is helping drive brand awareness, helping people know what the brand does, and demand for that brand, for the product that they're selling, the service they're providing. Defining and scaling AI-led go-to-market strategies, product storytelling, integrated campaign execution. Those again, product, campaign, go-to-market keywords for marketing. AI obviously is a big like name, like buzzword right now. But specifically for a company like this, HubSpot has very, very, very powerful AI tools baked into our marketing technology that like I know Marketo doesn't. And so going into this call, I would feel really confident here, just knowing that we are like a level up in that regards. Again, the last piece here, just partnering cross-functionally with product sales, customer success, driving pipeline adoption and expansion. Marketing is like one piece of the puzzle, right? Marketers drive leads for their sales team to then sell to, that get passed to customer success to retain and like continue to keep that business engine going. I don't know if you guys read about the flywheel through like that HubSpot has in our inbound marketing strategy, but that's exactly the idea. And so for this person to care about these other orgs, have that top of mind, again, like these are things we can kind of steal and use in our sound bites in the conversation to show them that we know them. So really good information here to use in your outreach. So Chrissy and I are gonna practice before we put you guys on the spot so that you can hear like what a cold call might sound like. And then if anyone wants to practice with us, if we wanna do like groups and then breakouts, we can do that, like whatever, Vinny, I'll let you ponder that while we practice.
Okay.
Whatever would be best. Oh boy. But Christy and I decided we're gonna not look at each other because we'll start to laugh,
Yeah.
but I'm
Oh, yeah,
gonna
'cause
be-
normally you're not facing somebody on a
Yeah,
cold
no,
call.
I know, like you won't see their faces. If I see Taylor's face, you can start laughing.
I'm gonna be the BDR, Taylor from HubSpot, and Chrissy's gonna be Gary from Simpler,
call me
but
Chrissy
it's
to
gonna be
make it
Chrissy,
easy,
yeah. Okay. Ring ring.
Hi, this is Chrissy.
Hey Chrissy, this is Taylor calling from HubSpot. We've actually never spoken before.
Hey Taylor, yeah, I'm actually just about to head into a meeting in a minute.
Hey, no worries. I figured you'd be busy. I'm calling in the middle of your day. Do you mind if I just take 30 seconds to tell you why I'm calling and you can let me know if it makes sense to find another time later on in the day or next week?
Yeah, I've got a few minutes before my meeting.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, Chrissy, I was just giving you a call. I came across Simpler on LinkedIn and noticed that you recently started in the role as CMO leading your marketing team. Congrats on the new role. Most of the time when I speak with leaders, they weren't brought on to keep things the same. Curious what your initiatives have been as CMO since you've been at Simpler in the last year.
Yeah, it's been a really fun and exciting role so far. I'd say right now, the biggest priority for the team is just really improving the campaigns that we've got.
Oh, cool, got it. That's really exciting. When you say improving the campaigns that you're working on, I guess, what does that look like? What needs to be improved right now?
I'd say right now, it's really just taking a long time to, put them together and like get all of the materials and assets ready to go and then actually push them out. So they're just, not really getting out in time, but, we're working on trying to fix it and improve it right now.
Yeah, I believe I saw you guys are using Marketo. I actually hear that a lot from folks that things are taking a long time. About how long does it typically take on average for you guys to put out a campaign?
Um, I'd say it varies across the board, but typically around, usually around 3 to 4 weeks to push out a campaign.
Gosh, okay, so maybe like 12 every year, one a month. Interesting. Well, I guess I know you mentioned campaigns have been a bit slower than you'd like for them to be. You want to see improvement there. Why do you think that it's been slower to get those campaigns out?
To be honest, like I've used quite a few other tools during my, time at other companies. I think Marketo is just kind of archaic. It's pretty hard to be nimble within the tool and, it's just really slowing my team down.
Yeah, you're definitely not the first person to say that. I think Marketo is a tool that has a little bit more of that archaic interface. It can be difficult to adopt. Um, in terms of like not seeing that adoption across your team and things taking a long time, what is the impact on your marketing team if things continue this way, if you're not able to increase that speed to getting your campaigns out?
In previous months, like we've fully missed deadlines and needed to completely pivot and, to throw out some of the campaigns, but wasted time on my end as well as my team, so. I'd say-
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's obviously not great. And actually one of the ways that I've been working with other marketing leaders like yourself that have been moving over from Marketo to HubSpot is helping them see that adoption and speed of campaign launches like in less than 6 months of using the HubSpot tool. And I know you mentioned you were about to jump into a meeting and I know I caught you out of the blue. Chrissy, based on what we talked about today, I'd love to set you up with one of our growth specialists at HubSpot to talk about like if HubSpot could even be a viable solution for your team based on the fact that like people moving over to HubSpot from Marketo are seeing success in using our tools, specifically for campaign management. Would you be against jumping on like a 15-minute intro call with one of my growth specialists to dive into this?
No, I think it definitely could help our team. We're in a contract right now and I think it's active through, I wanna say like the end of July. So if you
Mhm.
maybe wanna circle back like beginning of July, we can set up time for then.
Okay, yeah, actually, I'm really glad I caught you today on the phone because if you guys have your contract up at the end of July, typically we see it takes like 3 to 4 months to evaluate HubSpot. So actually think it would make sense for us to be having a conversation right now. And listen, I'm not trying to get you to put pen to paper, really just want to kick off the conversation and kick off the relationship with HubSpot so that you can see if HubSpot would even be worth considering once your contract is up, just so you have all the information you need to make that decision. Again, just like an apples to apples comparison, not like looking to put pen to paper or anything like that. Would you be against meeting maybe on Tuesday of next week for like 15-20 minutes?
Yeah, Tuesday next week would work for like an introductory level call to see if this would work for us.
Okay, would you have any availability like 2 o'clock on Tuesday?
Yeah, that should work great for me.
And are you in Eastern time?
I am.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, that works for us. Let me do this. I'm gonna send over a quick invite. I'm gonna add a Zoom link so that we can screen share if need be and kind of show you just like how HubSpot could potentially help. I'm gonna add one of my growth specialists on, Andrea, who's honestly such an expert in not only working with software companies, but specifically companies that have moved off of Marketo. So I'll send over that invite now. Would there be anyone else on your team you'd want to join the call with us? I know it would be just 20 minutes in an intro call, but if there's anyone on your team that you want to add, just let me know.
Yeah, probably Vinny, one of my marketing managers. He's really been having a hard time with the tools.
Oh, God. All right. Well, let me get Vinny on there. I'll send over the invite and I'll introduce you to Andrea. But listen, I'll let you go. I know I caught you out of the blue. Happy to let you get on with your day. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. I just sent over that invite. Do you mind just accepting it when you see it come through in your inbox?
Yep, just accepted it.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh my God.
Nerve-wracking.
Queens.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my God. All right. Yeah, do we wanna do
Fun.
practice first before we go through our final thought? Okay, so, well, we can recap. Obviously, that was like a probably 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was a longer call.
Longer call.
That's so much done in 5 minutes.
So much done in 5 minutes. I learned all about Chrissy's problems. Do you guys have any questions on that or any of the questions that maybe were asked or ones you maybe had that didn't get asked?
Like if, oh, sorry.
No,
Two both, sorry, and then we'll.
Go first, and then.
Okay, yeah, so like if someone like interrupts you, like if like Chrissy interrupted you, like when you were talking, saying like I have to go into the meeting, like how would you handle that?
It's a really good question. I think that a couple things. One is like, listen, like I really, really have to go. Like I'm actually really late for a meeting. I think one thing you could do is like be like, oh, no worries. Like when would be a better time for me to give you a call back? I'm so sorry. And get a time locked down and then like send them an invite, like Taylor to call Chrissy back at the time that they said so that it's on their calendar and they like remember to pick up. That would be one, that would be like probably a heartbreaker. You'd probably have to chase them down for a while. What else do you typically have your team do?
I think it also depends on like the time, like when they're saying this to you, like is it the, initial stage of like, I'm in a meeting right now. Sometimes that might
Oh,
be,
yeah.
say like, the likelihood of someone answering a phone during a meeting, like have you ever answered your phone during a meeting? Probably not. So I'd try and say like, okay, do you have a few minutes to chat right now and see if you can get a little bit more in there? But to Taylor's point, I think the easiest thing to do is like confirm a time that works for them and say, okay, great, I'm gonna send you over a calendar invite so that it's on your calendar and you know who's calling you.
And just to confirm, that wouldn't be with your rep, that would be like you calling back and getting them like more of that information. It can be tricky, especially if people like, well, if they're just being rude and hanging up, then that's a different story. But if you're like getting somewhere and you know there's pain and then they hang up, it's like, oh, how did I just lose that one? It'll happen for sure, but a couple different ways you can make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks. Great question. What was your comment?
Madonna, then Anne.
My question is, I know you guys have been doing this for a while, so like you probably have like the scripts kind of like memorized in your head. But like, how do you, I guess, in the early stages, like how do you go about like having a cold call without actually like reading the script that you're asking the right kind of questions?
So we don't actually use a script at HubSpot. It's not possible to put together a cold call script because you don't know. That's why we teach so much on like discovery and active listening.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just like having a tool bank of like questions to ask and things to ask about, more so than like having a script.
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, like similar to any other skill that you're working on, like practice is really the best way to feel comfortable and confident. Like Taylor and I probably had some pretty cringy calls when we first started out as BDRs, but I think it's just the more times you go through those reps of like asking good questions and seeing wins and on your face and being like, okay, this is not what I'm gonna do the next time. That helps to prep you for the next call. But I would say like in terms of knowing where to take the call, the research that we called out in the beginning, like we have all of our BDRs when they are going out to reach out to a contact, like they're going through those steps so that when someone does answer the phone, they're not like, oh shoot, like what am I gonna say to this person? Why do I care about reaching out to them? Like they have that information readily available when they're calling them so that they can reference it.
Was there a question?
Anne had a question. Well, she first says, amazing role play.
Thank you. I would hope I'm teaching these BDRs how to do it,
Queens.
so.
She says, curious, would you want to set an agenda at the start and say, like, first, I want to ask some questions about your goals and your marketing process, dot, dot, dot.
It's a really good question.
I
What do you
think-
usually say?
So I think it depends on the scenario. So sometimes BDRs will book meetings over email, so we're also doing a lot of email outreach. If you get someone or something booked over email and the BDR is taking it to qualify, and you've got like that set time, you've got a Zoom meeting in there, then I think it's appropriate to say like, hey, like, here's my agenda for our call today. This is what I was hoping to chat through. Does that align with what you were hoping to get out of the call? However, with a cold call, I would probably say not as much on that front, just because like you really have to capitalize and like keep this person on the phone, because usually they're not gonna be that long.
Yeah.
I'm curious what Taylor would say there.
No,
yeah.
I agree. I usually wouldn't set an agenda on like a cold call. I think that like, I think that, just saying like you're gonna keep it brief, I think is sufficient, like, hey, sorry, like I know that I called you out of the blue, like I'll keep this brief. Reason I was calling is, and just like acknowledging that you're not planning to like run like a full discovery call. We try to like wrap up in like 5 minutes, but I don't think it's necessary to set an agenda, when you're calling someone cold.
One more question,
Mhm.
and then, so it says, sorry, it's so small, sorry, I don't know how to zoom in. Stephanie says, sorry if this was already mentioned, but does the BDR also close the sale, or is there a separate team that handles that part?
No, so the BDR, all the BDR is in charge of is booking that next meeting with the rep. So during the cold call, like you gather some pretty light information around like, is this person a good fit for HubSpot? If they are, great, we book the meeting with the rep. During that next meeting, when you pass it off to your rep, we're kind of like removed from the process. So the sales rep is gonna be digging deeper into, you know, the current processes, the technology, like budget, all that stuff. And they're selling HubSpot through like a demo and all the other conversations. So in all regards, you're really just selling the meeting, that meeting with your rep.
And, we interchange the word sales rep and growth specialist to both mean account executive. for folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good call.
Wow,
We love
that's a
names.
lingo.
Acronyms and names, we love
Wow.
Yes.
it.
And then I think that, I'm sure you send the information, but like BDR would be like that path to an account executive role. So like, we have 3 levels within the BDR org, and like the purpose of in any tech sales role that you guys will look at will have like a BDR or SDR role. And the purpose is like prospecting is like the most important skill. You're always gonna be a BDR even if your title's account executive. I'm a BDR as a manager. I'm sourcing candidates, right? So like, I think that piece never goes away. So it's such an important skill to master before you become an account executive, because you're trying to identify like those good fit contacts, companies all the time. And then ultimately, once you're like in a great position with BDR, have that business acumen, you move to an account executive role and sell your own deals. So that's fun.
Question too. Yeah, Emmy said, how do you know if you're crossing a line and being pushy, especially when the prospect says they were in the middle of something or about to be busy?
It's a really good question. Again, it really comes down to that icky feeling in your gut. If you're like sensing that this person is like actually seriously like put off by you, like it's probably not worth it. Like let them go. I think that like to Chrissy's point, people don't answer the phone if they're actually busy. I don't even answer the phone when I'm not busy. Like, like if actually someone picks up the phone, like they're probably not busy, but they're probably looking for a way to get you off the phone. We did talk through like some openers and justifiers, some more that you can kind of use when someone is like really off put by a call is like, or you sense like real guard up, like, again, we're getting a little bit ahead, but like something like, hey, listen, Chrissy, I'm not gonna lie, this is a cold call. Would you like to hang up or roll the dice? Like you can get funny with it and people are like, oh, actually, I will roll the dice. Or they hang up and you save yourself some time. They were never gonna give you the time of day anyway, right? So like if you really sense people being off put, like you can give them an out.
I think another one too is like, totally understand you're busy. Do you have 30 seconds so I can
Yeah.
explain why I'm calling? So we can decide if it makes sense for me to give you a call back at a different time. It's like everyone has 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Like likelihood of them.
exactly.
And then if they hang up, goodbye.
That's the thing. That's what I always say to my team. I'm like,
You don't have 30
and a lot of people say like rejection must be so hard. It's like, I love rejection because it saves me time to spend time with someone that actually is gonna be like a win or a meeting or a deal. Like rejection is good because it gives you time to spend with like the right leads.
Love that mindset shift.
Yes.
We're grow-getters over here.
We love it.
Shoot, do you think that we should skip to our final thought or do we wanna do practice?
I was curious, because I know we only have a few minutes left, but as you said, cold calling takes like 5 minutes. Would you be open to maybe one person and either Zoom or in person
Absolutely.
doing it in front of all of us?
Is there anyone that wants to practice?
I'll try it.
Especially,
Yeah,
and
go
here's
for
why
it.
this is cool, because this is what we were talking about earlier about being vulnerable. This is gonna be a safe space, so like we're all here to support each other, so just FYI. And two, it's also great practice because this is actually part of a lot of interview processes for this type of role.
Mhm.
You wanna model it like the interview where we just do it once, you get feedback?
Yeah,
Because that's pretty similar in this type of interview where like you'll do a role play like this, and you'll have a little chat with the managers, these queens, to talk through feedback, and then you try it again, maybe. But
I mean the yeah. I'll be Gary, but you can call me Taylor. And
So can I like look, cause like, or.
Look the other way, do
we
whatever
will
you
look at
need
each
to
other.
do.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, when I do this on the interview, I tell people to go camera off because I can't look at someone while I'm doing like.
Yeah.
realistic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have all of your information up on the screen, so.
Okay.
And so first off, Amber,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
No, you'll be so fine.
Okay.
seriously. All right, cool. So I will.
If you just say ring ring, then I'll know that you're calling.
All right. Ring, ring.
Hello, this is Taylor.
Hi Taylor, this is Amber calling from HubSpot. We've actually never spoken before, but I was wondering if you had 30 seconds to talk?
Amber, yeah, thanks for the call. I can give you 30 seconds, but I'm about to jump into a meeting.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'll be quick. I won't take up too much of your time. I actually took a look at your LinkedIn and I saw that you recently stepped into the CMO role. I was wondering what goals and initiatives you had as you step into this role.
Yeah, it's been great so far. I think like my biggest priority stepping into the role is really focusing on our lead generation this year. I think it's been something that's been lacking in the past for our team, and so it's really been like my top priority.
Absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit more about that current state? Like, is that harming your sales? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, honestly, exactly. Like I think missing our lead generation targets like directly impacts our sales leaders and our sales org. If we're missing those lead generation targets, then our sales team isn't getting enough of leads from us and in part like missing their revenue targets, honestly. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of the lead generation. We also have some pretty lofty revenue goals this year, and so it's like all hands on deck. Like marketing's gotta be hitting our targets for our lead generation, sales hitting revenue targets, and our success teams hitting retention targets. So it's really just gonna be like a huge year for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of good stuff in place. About your current state right now, do you think that where you are at resource wise, do you have the ability to reach these goals?
Yeah, I think we have a marketing tool in place, Marketo. It's been it's honestly quite the beast. Like we're still trying to figure out how to use it to our advantage, I guess, in helping us get there.
Yeah, so have you faced some challenges working with that platform? Would you say that it's pretty user friendly or?
It's not the most user friendly. I think it's pretty cumbersome, so it can be like tricky to adopt, honestly. I've also been hiring a lot of people, and so having to train all of them on using the tools, like, not like really in my job description, it's been taking up a lot of time, so I'm sure there would be like room for improvement there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad we talked today. You know, I'm here. I want to put more time back into your day. You know, based on what you're telling me today around your lead generation and as you hire new people, I think that we can get aligned here. Would you be against a 30-second call or another check-in next week on Tuesday?
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't be like against it. I think that it might be better for us to connect toward the summer just because that's when our contract is up with Marketo, and I don't want to waste anyone's time. So
Totally understand. I mean, we run into those all the time. I think, you know, you're at HubSpot, it takes a little bit for us to get everyone trained, so I think it would be perfect to get started in talking about it now.
okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Okay, cool. How does Tuesday at 2 o'clock sound for you?
Yeah, that should work actually.
I'm gonna go ahead and send this invite over to you right now.
All right, I just got it and accepted it.
And see,
Oh,
that's so good.
How would you score yourself 1 to 10?
I feel like it was pretty good, like my responses and my questions, I felt good, but I don't really know much about the product, obviously, in HubSpot. so-
I think that's actually like the best. Like I always joke with my team, my new hires who don't know the least about the product do the best on cold calls because they just ask questions instead of pitching. So I think like really lean on that. I think you did a great job, for sure. I thought you had some really strong questions. I think like you'll start to pick up like sound bites to pitch. One piece of feedback for you to work on, think about how you asked your questions. Some of them were like closed questions, so like yes or no. Just asking open-ended questions in the same same questions, but open-ended. So you said, have you had any challenges with that, Marketo? How would you ask that in open-ended?
How is this currently supporting your business?
Yeah, how's it going? What's the experience been like? Then you get more of like a genuine answer because they are forced to think instead of like, when you ask a closed question, you're like,
You're getting a yes or no answer.
yeah, and you're also like portraying your assumptions. So like if you're asking, have you had any challenges? We're assuming that there are challenges that are happening. So when you ask what, like in an open-ended way, they just speak from the heart, like speak, no, not like being influenced by anything you've said. Get like a true, genuine answer. But that, it was really good, like so good. That's just like a small thing that honestly, I'm still, even my BDRs who've been over a year, like I'm still working on with them.
That was so good.
You were so brave, Amber. Like,
Right?
like,
I
go clap for
know.
Amber. Wow.
One thing to do it in an interview, to do it in front of everyone else.
Seriously.
Yeah, I haven't, I've done like some role play practice in the past, but I've never done one like in front of a bunch of
Crushed it.
Actually, so.
I think that about brings us to time, or
Yeah.
actually we're 2 minutes over, so let me jump to the next, or, yeah, perfect. So final thought. So one thing that, as you guys go into interviews and in general, like as you take on like a tech sales career, you're never gonna be able to perfect anything in a sales role. Specifically cold calls we're talking about today. Like I think when a lot of people ask me like, why sales, or like, why are you like still at HubSpot, you know, after 6 years? It's like, since you can never be perfect at something, there's always room to grow. And one like final thought I would leave you guys with is this quote, perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. I think that's so true in like everything you do in a sales role. You're gonna have, and I do like a BDR wrapped at the end of someone's BDR career when they promote. And like 40,000 calls by like the end of your career, right? So like you're gonna have so many calls, and I'm gonna tell you what, like you're never gonna be able to make all of them perfect. There's always gonna be things to improve on. So one of the things to think about is like being extremely open to feedback and being coachable, like knowing that like you're gonna be able to like be excellent while you continue to work to be perfect and do things following the framework to a T. So, you know, so much, and I'm sure people tell you guys this all the time in a sales career, it's like having that coaching, being open to feedback is gonna be the fastest way to grow. So,
Good way to end it.
awesome. Well,
Ah,
thank you all.
Taylor, Chrissy, the queen. Thank you
Such a
so
good
much.
session to end on. You guys crushed it. Awesome questions in the chat too, and awesome questions in the room.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
You know,
I was
you're back.
wondering like, if you ever have to like deal with like the fatigue of like consistently like calling people, especially like through the day and like at the end of the BDR.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I think it's something that can happen, if you're like doing something for too long, like anything you're doing for too long, you're gonna get tired. So I typically encourage my team to work in short sprints and take breaks. And I think like it gives you energy to come back and do it again. So maybe it's like getting on a huddle with a teammate or going on a quick walk or like listening to your favorite song or making a meal, like taking a break to get energized to go back and do it. But that would probably be like my biggest place there.
No, I'd say definitely agree with that. I'm very, with my team as well, like sticking to a calendar block and incorporating breaks into your day, like literally scheduling like walk for 15 minutes.
Yep.
So that it forces you to get up from your desk and do something else. Cause I do think, especially when, you know, a lot of our teams are remote now. Like when it's just you at home, it's easy to get locked in, stay at your desk and not move, but you kind of need to force yourself to like remove yourself from the situation, and 9 times out of 10 when you come back, like it's a fresh mindset, you're ready to get after it again.
Taylor, Chrissy, I want to respect your time, but I just want to see, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah,
Chat?
Of course.
We have another question from Anne. Love these questions. We're leaning into the questions, everybody. I'm
Yes.
loving this. So last minute question about cold calls. If you go straight into those pain discovery questions, I would imagine people might get guarded and think, why are you asking all these questions? You're trying to sell me. And they might not be as open to answering, honestly. So how would you navigate? You can kind of talk about that a little bit.
I would say, I mean, I think she said, I mean, I think in the beginning of the cold call, like you are kind of stating why you're reaching out. 9 times out of 10, they know what HubSpot is. If they don't, they're like, what's HubSpot? Then you're explaining what HubSpot is to add that clarity. I mean, I think most prospects can kind of put 2 and 2 together that like, okay, it's probably a sales call, but let's see if it's worth my time. I don't know if that answers the question or
I
not.
think too, like when people have their guard up, like you'd be surprised. I feel like, because again, people like talking about themselves. So I think if you're asking about like them and challenges, if something resonates, like they're probably gonna give you something. If they're really not and they're being a bit like closed, I think that's where storytelling can really help you to open up the conversation to pivot. So if you ask like, what are your priorities right now? And they're like, I can't discuss this with you. It's like, oh, got it. Well, some of the marketing leaders I'm talking to are prioritizing lead generation this year. Is that something you all are focused on? Like using storytelling and building trust in like that you're talking to other people just like them. So I think you can pivot as long, like we always say like, and this is like, there's so many like pieces of advice and like little like lines, like show me, know me. Like another one is like calm, curious, confident. Like when you're on a cold call and like someone's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. It's like, if you just be pleasant and smile while you're talking, like that makes people want to talk to you. So just like, oh yeah, I get it. No worries. I'm always calling at the worst time. Really was genuinely reaching out because we've been working with other marketing leaders in the software space and we're helping them achieve like these targets. Like, does that sound like something you guys are interested in? Like, I mean, honestly, like if you're smiling on your call, and that is just gonna go such a long way. So it's all about like that calm, curious, confident attitude on a cold call.
And does that help? And you have the ability to come up if you want to ask a follow-up question. Oh, okay. This makes total sense, honestly. Thank you so much for hosting this masterclass. Oh,
Of
thank
course.
you.
Yeah.
You
Can
type
we
so fast.
do we send the deck out? Okay, good. So you guys will have this, so.
So any other questions for Taylor and Chrissy before we kind of wrap up? Because y'all, the afternoon's pretty much over. I have some closing notes, so don't go away yet, but yeah. Yeah. Any other questions for Taylor and Chrissy? Okay. All right, one last polite golf clap for Tiffany. Oh my gosh, the queens again.
So
Thank
nice to
you
meet you
so much.
guys.
Oh my God, y'all. So, okay, and I know there was probably a lot more time to practice too, but this is just the beginning. Hi, Catherine. Welcome back.
Hello.
So, here's what I'd love to do. So, y'all, we are at the end of our masterclass for today, and I have a couple notes I want to leave you with, because what a great few hours this has been. I know it just feels like you were just here like 5 minutes ago.
seconds ago.
But I just want to say first and foremost, thank you all so much for, again, abiding by our ground rules, to ask questions, to be curious, to really think about mindset, to be vulnerable. You just missed a really great role play just now, Catherine, I know. So kudos to Amber, like, just for being brave to be in this space today. I really just want to thank you for being so intentional and just being here, all of you in person, virtual, vice versa. So I just wanted to thank you. I think Chrissy and Taylor's final thought literally said everything, so I will definitely not try to top that. No, it's great. Please, like, I'd rather you all say that. So with that, I want to, just send my thanks. And so in terms of next steps from here, Taylor and Chris just said this, we're going to send out both the slide deck and the recording afterwards, so that if you want to practice on your own or kind of gather some tips from all the things we just uncovered in this past hour, you'll be able to reference it again. Especially if you're interested in BDR roles at HubSpot or elsewhere. We're hoping HubSpot because, we're the best, we're a little biased, but but you'll have this to reference. So I really just want to say the journey will still continue after today. We only touched the surface with a few topics, but I hope that we've at least touched on one or both of the objectives that we had for today, which was the following. And I'm just going to let me be techie and actually. So again, these were our learning objectives for the day, which was to at least gain some understanding and practice some of the desired skills and mindset needed for a role in path in sales, and to expand your network with not only just with each other, but also some amazing leaders that you just met today through the folks you saw in front of you and the folks who were just here earlier. So I'm hoping you've at least achieved one of these things. And if not, it's okay. We will still continue this journey. This is not at the end. Oh, and we have more friends coming. Cool. So with that, I want to say thank you all so much again to our folks on Zoom and in person. More will be coming via email after today, but polite golf clap for all of you for attending. Again, whether you are incredible women entering your path in sales, your allies entering a path in sales, we again just scratched the surface. So more to come after today, but thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Friday, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Woo, thank you
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody